Aloha. All right, we're on to what is salvation. This is the second piece in this section. The first one, what is forgiveness, that we read, and what is salvation. Let me read one paragraph from earlier that explained these little pieces that Jesus is bringing in the second part of the workbook. Okay, this is paragraph 11 on page 400 of or let me just say it's the introduction to part 2. It's paragraph 11 of the introduction to part 2. He says, one further use for words will still remain. From time to time, instructions on a theme of special relevance will intersperse our daily lessons in the periods of wordless, deep experience which should come afterwards. These special thoughts should be reviewed each day, each one of them to be continued till the next is given you. So in theory, you review this writing each day until the next one. I have not been doing that, but I'm going to start doing that now on these videos. They should be slowly read and thought about a little while, preceding one of the holy and blessed instants in the day. We give the first of these instructions below, now, and then he gave what is forgiveness. And now, after lesson 230, which we did yesterday, now will I seek and find the peace of God. Now we have what is salvation. Okay, so I'm going to read this. This is 5 paragraphs. It's short. And then there's another, let's see how many lessons. There's another 10 lessons. And then the next one is going to be what is the world. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. What is salvation? Paragraph 1. Salvation is a promise made by God that you would find your way to him at last. It cannot but be kept. It guarantees that time will have an end, and all the thoughts that have been born in time will end as well. God's word is given every mind which thinks that it has separate thoughts, and will replace these thoughts of conflict with the thought of peace. Paragraph 2. The thought of peace was given to God's Son the instant that his mind had thought of war. There was no need for such a thought before, for peace was given without opposite and merely was. But when the mind is split, there is a need of healing. So the thought that has the power to heal the split became a part of every fragment of the mind that still was one, but failed to recognize its oneness. Now it did not know itself and thought its own identity was lost. Paragraph 3. Salvation is undoing in the sense that it does nothing, failing to support the world of dreams and malice. Thus it lets illusions go. By not supporting them, it merely lets them quietly go down to dust. And what they hid is now revealed, an altar to the holy name of God, whereon his word is written, with the gifts of your forgiveness laid before it, and the memory of God not far behind. Paragraph 4. Let us come daily to this holy place and spend a while together. Here we share our final dream. It is a dream in which there is no sorrow, for it holds a hint of all the glory given us by God. The grass is pushing through the soil, the trees are budding now, and birds have come to live within their branches. Earth is being born again in new perspective. Night has gone, and we have come together in the light. Paragraph 5. Now, from here, we give salvation to the world, for it is here salvation was received. The song of our rejoicing is the call to all the world that freedom is returned, that time is almost over, and God's Son has but an instant more to wait until his Father is remembered. Dreams are done. Eternity has shined away the world, and only heaven now exists at all. All right, so this section is called What is Salvation? And now salvation, all these terms, forgiveness, salvation, atonement, even words like Jesus, even words like Son of God, even the word God, even the word love, all have different meanings for the Course. The Course, if you try to understand the Course according to the meanings of these words, that you've learned previously, you're going to find the Course difficult. Because Jesus is giving new meanings to these terms. It's a very important thing to understand with the Course, is that these terms do not mean what you generally think they mean. And we have come to know these terms mainly from the biblical tradition. But the Course is correcting the biblical tradition. Or you might say it's reinterpreting the biblical tradition. The things that we find in the Bible ain't necessarily so, or at least Jesus is saying it needs some light shined upon it, right? Some correction. One of the famous ones that I talk about a lot is where Jesus corrects Matthew, where it says, many are called, but few are chosen. Jesus says that in Matthew. And in the Course, he says, many are called, but few are chosen. Should be, all are called, but few choose to listen. which is definitely a different meaning and a different idea. So what is salvation? Paragraph 1, salvation is a promise made by God that you would find your way to him at last. Now, it's an interesting wording. It's a beautiful line, and this is one to remember. Right? It's a promise made by God that you will find your way to him at last. Now, why does he say you would, not you will, find your way to him at last? Because it's already done. That's the magic of that word being used right there. He doesn't say will, he says would. You've already found your way. Right? You've never not been home in God. You're still there. Right? You just are not remembering that you are. So you've already, in only an instant, and this is going to be brought out in what Jesus says here. In the very instant that separation was even thought of as a possibility, the tiny mad idea of separation, in that very instant, the answer was given. It's impossible. You're still home. Time, there is no time, right? In eternity, even an instant is still part of that eternal time, right? Talking about the instant, when we say something is instantaneous in English, it means it doesn't even take a second. It's already there, right? So when Jesus uses the term holy instant, it's not even a second, right? It's not even, we think in terms of time, in seconds, minutes, and hours, days, years, weeks, months, years, decades, centuries, millennia, eons. We think that's how we think of time, but something instantaneous does not take any time at all. So salvation is a promise made by God that you would find your way to him at last. It cannot but be kept. But is an archaic word that Jesus keeps using in the Course. It's kind of like Shakespeare in English, like life is but a dream, life is only a dream, or life is just a dream. Or one of the great songs from the 60s, love is but a song we sing. Love, right? Love is just a song we sing. That song is called Get Together by Chet Powers. It cannot but be kept, right? So this promise has to be kept, right? It cannot but be kept. It's why must it be kept? Because it never happened, right? The separation never happened. And that is the atonement principle. It guarantees that time will have an end, and all the thoughts that have been born in time will end as well. God's word is given every mind which thinks that it has separate thoughts and will replace these thoughts of conflict with the thought of peace. And the thought here, the word thought has capital T. Okay, we really have no separate thoughts ultimately, right? There's only one thought, and that is God's thought, and that is the thought of peace. Paragraph 2, the thought of peace was given to God's Son the instant that his mind had thought of war. There was no need for such a thought before, for peace was given without opposite and merely was. Okay, and this is reminiscent of what Jesus said in, I think it was lesson 169, he said, God is, right? And when you get to that point, you realize that it just is, right? It is there, and there's no other thought. There's only God, right? There's no thoughts. There's no mind. There's no lips. There's no anything except that perfect oneness. This is peace without an opposite, love without an opposite. But when the mind is split, there is a need of healing. So the thought that has the power to heal the split became a part of every fragment of the mind that still was one, but failed to recognize its oneness. Now, the idea brings in the idea of fragments, that we are all fragmented parts of the whole. Each one of us, each and every one of us is a fragment, and we think that we're separate. We think that we are have our own thoughts, we have our own mind, we have our own, but really, in reality, we are one with everything. And this fragmentation happened when that tiny mad idea of separation was taken seriously in the moment, in the instant, right? In the instant that it was taken seriously, that seemed to happen. Again, remember, time is illusory. Time does not exist. So what we think of as time is, is really non-existent. And everything has already happened. It's already happened in that eternal moment, so to speak. And we seem to have split off into many, trillions and trillions and zillions of fragments. But that's not reality. Now it did not know itself and thought its own identity was lost. Right? Identity with capital I. Once the fragmentation happened, the knowledge or the remembrance of that original identity got lost. Paragraph 3. Salvation is undoing in the sense that it does nothing, failing to support the world of dreams and malice. It's similar to forgiveness, right? Forgiveness is still and quietly does nothing. Remember that from the previous thing that Jesus wrote here in this part. Forgiveness is still and quietly does nothing. It merely looks and waits and judges not. Salvation is undoing in the sense that it does nothing, failing to support the world of dreams and malice. It just does not give energy to the illusion, right? It does not give energy to the dream. It does not give credence to the dream. Thus it lets illusions go. By not supporting them, it merely lets them quietly go down to dust. And what they hid is now revealed, an altar to the holy name of God, whereon his word is written, with the gifts of your forgiveness laid before it, and the memory of God not far behind. So when you make your mind still, and you don't even give energy whatsoever to what is not real, then reality can come, right? You can have that memory again of what was forgotten, and it's not just what was forgotten; it was what was actively, in some sense, it was pushed away. And now the way back is not to push the illusion away, not to destroy the ego, not to kill the ego, not to fight the ego, not to do battle anymore, but just to merely to merely smile, a gentle smile at the illusion, and just say, I know it's not real. I trust there's no reality to it. It cannot affect me. I need not fear. It has no effect whatsoever on my true reality, on my true self. And that goes for everything in this world, right? Everything. There's nothing that need ever disturb your mind unless you let it, right? If you give power to it, it will. If you don't give power to it, if you just let it be what it is, your mind is now ready to receive the memory, right? To return home to the reality of what you are. Paragraph 4. Let us come daily to this holy place and spend a while together. Here we share our final dream. It is a dream in which there is no sorrow, for it holds a hint of all the glory given us by God. The grass is pushing through the soil, the trees are budding now, and birds have come to live within their branches. Earth is being born again in new perspective. Night has gone, and we have come together in the light. This is kind of a reference to the real world. Like when we purge our minds, so to speak, but purge is not the correct word. When we free our mind by not giving energy to the illusion, let's put it that way. Let's not say purge, because purge is more active. This is more just not giving energy to what is not real. When we do that, the world becomes a different place. We start to see everything as it truly is. Even this world of suffering, of pain and suffering that we have, that has troubled us for so long, and that has been such a thorn in our side for so long, becomes a place of beauty, a place of peace, a place of joy. And Jesus is inviting us to this practice. He says, let us come daily to this holy place. Let us come daily back to this remembrance and this promise of salvation. Let us come daily to this place where there is no suffering, where there is no more ego, where there is no more fear, where there is no more separation. Paragraph 5. From here we give salvation to the world, for it is here salvation was received. So from this holy instant, when we come into this place and have this experience, then we can truly give that to everyone and everything. We can give it back, and we can share what that is. And others will learn from it. It might not be from anything we say, anything we do. It's just our simple presence. From here we give salvation to the world, for it is here salvation was received. The song of our rejoicing is the call to all the world that freedom is returned. The time is almost over, and God's Son has but an instant more to wait until his Father is remembered. Dreams are done. Eternity has shined away the world, and only heaven now exists at all. So time, it's very important to keep this idea of time, how the Course understands time. Time is really nothing, just like the ego. The time is born of the ego mind, right? Or the ego thought system. Eternity is now, and it can only be now, right? Eternity is no time. The Byrds had a great song. I remember this. I haven't listened to it for years, but it's called I think it goes, my love. She doesn't care about time, right? She doesn't care about time. Time is part of this great veil of illusion. If there was no time, everything would be in the eternal now. And part of the illusion works because of time, right? Time and space, obviously, but time is a big one, and all of us have on some level or another, we think that time is real, just as we think this whole thing is real, and we can't even wrap our minds around the idea that eternity is right now, right? Eternity is here right now, and it has always been right now. And if I could just let go of past and future, and with that, I let go of really personal identity, small I identity, then I will be in that place. I will be in that place of peace that Jesus is talking about. I will be in the peace of God. I will be in. Now, I might not be fully in it, because I'll probably, still come back, and I'll still have some doubts, some questions, some feelings of feeling separate, being plagued by the problems of the world. But it won't. The problems will have less and less effect on me as time goes by, and I will free myself in time until ultimately. Well, even not ultimately, but more and more, I will be living in the eternal now. Right? It may not be all at once, but I will be slowly but surely. I'll be making my way. Right? So that was What is Salvation. Hope that was a little helpful today. I'm going to do a separate video probably today, lesson 231. Father, I will but to remember you. Stay tuned, and thank you so much for tuning in. And have a beautiful day, a lovely day, and start the day with love. Spend the day with love. Fill your day with love, and end your day with love. See you very soon. Shine on.